sacrifice?
Well, his ruling is not a surprise, but I am terribly disappointed, quite frankly, that this judge took 18 months to reach a decision that he should have been able to reach rather quickly. There are no complex legal issues in this decision. I think he made the wrong decision, and the reason I'm glad that we finally have a decision is so we can get it to another court. I continue to feel very confident that when this is finally resolved, that it will be in a way that will enable us to use these precious resources to continue to provide the auxiliary services, oxygen for people who need oxygen, dental services for adults who are poor and without dental coverage. So many of these auxiliary services that can be paid for with these resources are critically important. And this judge has, in my judgment, no right to say how the legislature and the governor should be expending public tax resources. He had a legal responsibility, a legal decision to reach, and I think he interjected himself quite inappropriately in an area that was rightfully the responsibility of the legislature and the executive.
There was a report today that said that you might be delaying the lottery rollout because of the issue with the new vendor and maybe a new lottery director here. Are you planning on delaying the rollout of the slots?
No, we are not. That's a false rumor if it's out there. Full steam ahead. Our new lottery director is on board. She is excited about carrying out the responsibilities, so no, I feel very good about where things are, and we will make decisions in a deliberative, careful, thoughtful manner, which means that we're not going to rush to judgment about any aspect of what needs to be done to get this program up and running, but we are pursuing it in a deliberative way.
I have a question about, you mentioned shared sacrifice in with the teachers. There are calls from some of the school districts in our area, parents, boards, etc., calling for teachers to be willing to come back to the table, look at concessions, look at freezing salaries. Is that appropriate given the fact that, state workers, municipal workers here in Columbus, etc., are doing the same? Is it time for teachers? I mean, how do you feel about those kind of requests, and how should they be interpreted by your teacher friends?
Well, just let me say to you that we've got, I don't know how many thousands of state employees that I'm responsible for. And the last thing I need to do is to take on responsibility for employees that have contractual arrangements and agreements with their school systems. But as I have said in the past, and I continue to say, these are very unusual times, and I think it's appropriate for all of us to participate in the sacrifices that are that are necessary to get us through this difficult time.
Governor, what is your response to the President and U.S. Secretary Arne Duncan's concern about charter limitations in Ohio and other states about any kind of moratorium or caps on further growth?
I have talked to the Secretary personally, I guess 4 times since he has been Secretary of Education. At least on 2 of those occasions, they've been personal interactions. What I have said to the Secretary, and I'll repeat to you, is that I support good, quality charter schools that are adequately serving the students that attend their schools. I am hugely opposed to chronically failing charter schools, I think what we've accomplished in this budget is something that was a very good result. And during the negotiations, I said to Senator Harris, you want more money for charter schools? I want more accountability and transparency. I'll give you the money if you'll give me the transparency and the accountability. And I think that was a good outcome for the state of Ohio and ultimately for the charter school movement. There were charter schools that contacted me during the budget process encouraging me to hold firm, because they said, quite frankly, they did not want to be painted with a broad brush. And the way the charter school movement was instituted in Ohio was indefensible. There were schools that were grandfathered in so that there was no real authority or accountability given to them by the Department of Education. I think we have reached a rather successful conclusion in this budget. And I've said to Secretary Duncan, Mr. Secretary, your experience with charter schools in Chicago may be different than my experience with some charter schools in Ohio, and I think he understands that. He had a quote in the paper some months ago, and we talked after that, and he said, "Would you like for me to write a clarifying letter?" And I said, "Oh no, that's not necessary. But I just want you to know what we're trying to accomplish in Ohio in terms of the charter school movement. And if a charter school is doing good work, and many of them do, they have no reason to be concerned about Governor Ted Strickland. But if they are being chronically failing in their efforts and in their approach, then I continue to have serious problems about public resources going to them. Now, there has been questions about why have more stringent rules about the closure of charter schools when you don't apply the same criteria to public schools. Well, the Constitution of our state requires us to have a public school system that provides an education to our children. So the public schools are the entity, quite frankly, that must remain in place. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't reorganize that school. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't go in and replace the leadership of that school. Secretary Duncan did that in Chicago. And I think chronically failing public schools should be reorganized, closed. The leadership should be changed. So I'm not wanting the public schools to get off the hook either. But the fact is that it's not possible to actually close a public school, because the state is constitutionally required to maintain public schools for the students of our state. So that makes them, somewhat different from a charter school.
Anything new on Jason Getzey?
I'm sorry?
Anything new on Jason Getzey?
No, but I'm going to be dealing with that situation relatively soon. I need to spend enough time, and I haven't done that.
I'm sorry, but how long can we keep going with the optional Medicaid services in lieu